Here's a segment from the latest edition of St. Charles Parish Today, a monthly local talk show. About 45% of the total population of St. Charles Parish is unprotected by a levee that could keep out the majority of storm surge flooding from a strong hurricane. That's roughly 24,000 residents that could easily lose their homes and all of their possessions should the right storm come along. And that storm could come. Recall Hurricane Ike, which made landfall in Texas. Its winds pushed water onto the shoulder of Highway 3127 and covered streets in Willow Ridge subdivision. Recall Hurricane Isaac, which pushed water from Lake Pontchartrain precariously close to the second set of tracks in months. And those are just two examples of the risk our parish faces. This spring, St. Charles Parish is proposing a property tax millage to fund hurricane protection levies, including associated pumping stations and structures throughout the parish. All areas would benefit, including those areas that already enjoy levee protection. Another just as important measure would fund needed upgrades and expansions in the wastewater department to ensure the parish can keep up with future growth. Our first segment today will include an overview of these proposals with a special focus on grant funding. We have with us St. Charles Parish Grants Officer Holly Fonseca and St. Charles Parish President VJ St. Pierre Jr. Okay, well, thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you, Renee.
So I want to start out with kind of the big picture on this on these two proposals, and that is, why are these millages so important to St. Charles Parish right now?
Well, Renee, as you know, you've been working for parish government for 8 years. The future stability of the parishes, especially in the wastewater, is critical. As you know, wastewater department has no millages or no sales tax going to it. It's strictly funded by the user fees. The user fees hadn't been keeping up with the operation and maintenance of the parish, so it's crucial. I mean, you can't live without a sewer department, and we're hoping that this renewal of the 2 mills is it's not gonna cost the residents any additional money. It's just a renewal of the existing millages. The levy millage, which you know is primarily the main focus of our administration since we took over in 2008 is to provide flood protection for everybody in the west bank of the river. Since then, parish government, the parish council, has dedicated $21 million from the general fund for levee protection. Sam Sholey, the public works director, has generated $10 million from his general fund, and through the grants, state grants, Ms. Holly was able to get another additional $17 million. But once that money is spent and all that money has been dedicated to projects already, once that money is gone, that's it. The levee system comes to an end. So if we are to have complete flood protection for the west bank of the river and the east bank, this millage is critical. Now you might say, well, why would the people on the east bank want to vote for millage? Because they have 98% of the east bank has 100-year protection. Mm-hmm. But we need an additional pumping station at the Walker Canal, and also the West Shore project, which is going to tie in through our levee in months and go west toward St. John Parish with another pumping station there. And also the operation and maintenance of all these pumping stations. We've been building pumping stations, but we haven't been dedicating any money for operation and maintenance, like the Cross Bayou pumping station. This last major rain event, we spent over $35,000 just on fuel to run that pump. So wow. We're going to have 50-something pumping stations in this parish, so we have to have money available to operate and maintenance thing. But I think the biggest issue on people on the East Bank is that FEMA doesn't recognize East Bank, West Bank, okay? They recognize the parish as a whole. So until we have a complete tied-in system, our insurance rates are not going to go down. Even though on the East Bank they have a 100-year protection, but because FEMA does not recognize it as two separate entities, as one, that's why the people on the East Bank should vote for it.
Right, and that's really important. Like you said, we all kind of sink or swim as one parish, East and West Banks.
Right.
So before we get into kind of the nuts and bolts of the proposal as far as levies, can you give us a little history of, and you kind of alluded to it in your answer before, what's the history of the levies in St. Charles Parish, and what did your administration do to get to where we are today? Okay,
well, you know, when we took over in 2008, they've been trying to get alignment for about 18 years, and it hadn't been very successful. So once we hired Mr. Sholey, and we started going to the Corps of Engineers and just tell them, hey guys, where you want us to put this levee? And we're going to oblige with you. From what I understand, before there was some bickering about where the alignment should be. But it took us 3.5 years, but finally we got all the permits to do the entire levee, which I thought Mr. Schuller and his staff and Holly and the levee team did a great job of doing that. And now that we're ready to move forward, it's nothing. All we need is the funding to continue on. So I'm very happy what we did in 7.5 years to get to this point. So we have, if we do have a major hurricane event, heaven forbid we do, and FEMA comes in and dedicates a bunch of money to levees, we permit it, we design, we're ready to go. So we'll have that, if this millage pass, we'll have that money to put toward the match to get get those grants.
Right. Well, next we're going to move on to the importance of local dollars, and that's what this proposal is all about, is raising those local dollars. And so, Holly, there's some importance there on being able to leverage local dollars so that we can build more levee and hopefully build it quicker.
Right, Renee. Over the past 7 years, the parish has built 96 drainage, water, sewer, recreation, and other projects costing $71 million by combining $14 million of local funding with $57 million of state and federal grant funding. As you can see, with local taxpayer funding only, we could have only done a fraction of these projects. So that's why leveraging is so important, with an estimated cost of $300 million to construct and improve outer flood protection systems on the east and west banks. It's going to be crucial for us to leverage local monies along with the $87 million in bonds that this levy millage proposition would produce with state and federal grant funding.
Right, and some of those sources are kind of coming online still. You have BP Restore Act. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Right. We have access to several sources that we can leverage with local funding. With the support of our levy districts and our state and federal legislators, we're able to access at the state level funding through the CPRA, as well as state capital outlay funding and the DOTD statewide flood control program. At the federal level, we can access FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program funds, as well as the Restore Act funds and the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act funds.
Okay, and we've actually already done this for the levee as well, for the actual construction that's going on now in Willow Ridge.
That's correct. That's correct. Since 2008, the parish has invested nearly $18 million of funding in outer flood protection, of which half has been local funding, half has been state funding through the CPRA, statewide flood control program, and state capital outlay.
Okay, and last question is, how much more can we build with the funding that we have now without this millage proposal being passed?
Well, with current funding, we can proceed with advertising for bids 3 more projects. 2 projects that will complete the Willow Ridge Reach. Those are the Willow Ridge Pump Station and the Willowdale Pump Station T-wall and the eastern tie-in at the Davis Diversion Levee, as well as the 7-foot earthen levee in the Ellington Reach. However, as Mr. St. Pierre said, funding on hand is limited, and any subsequent flood protection programs will be put on hold until additional local monies become available. If taxpayers approve this millage, the parish intends to continue our history of leveraging local dollars with state and federal grant funds to move forward with constructing this so important outer flood protection system.
Definitely, and this is a proposal, it's got a lot of parts and pieces to it, so people, I know, are probably going to have more questions. So Mr. Vijay, can you give people a little bit of an idea of where they can get those questions answered? And we have some dates coming up as well for town hall meetings. Yes,
Renee, we have a town hall meeting on the east and west bank. On the east bank, April the 7th at the American Legion Hall in Destrehan, and on the west bank, April the 9th at the Eddie Dufresne Center. One thing I forgot to mention is that, if on the wastewater millage, it's actually a renewal of an existing 2 mills. And on the levy millage, it's 3.6 mills, which if an average house in St. Charles Parish is appraised at $175, it would be at $36.40 a year. So that's less than a tank of gas. So we really think this millage they're necessary and they're affordable.
Right. All right. Well, thank you both for being on the show today.
Thank you,
Thank
Renee.
you.
Watch the entire episode at www.scptoday.com or on SCP TV.